Hello there, my fellow sophisticated creatives. Welcome to JCV Art Studio from the dressing room. My name is Joanna, you all know that. And today I have children's author Teoni Spathelfer on the podcast. Since a child, Teoni immersed herself in her own culture and learning about other cultures around the world. She has worked as a publicist, a radio journalist, host, and producer, as well as an arts and music writer. Her documentary, Teoni's Dream, outlines her mother's residential school experience and has aired on nationwide on the CBC radio. Teoni, it's great to have you back. I love it when guests return.
Well, thank you so much for having me back on your podcast. It's an honor to be here as always. And just by way of a little more of an introduction, I am from the Celtic Band, which is from Bella Bella. I was born here on Vancouver Island. And so I'm the daughter of Lena White, the granddaughter of Jacob White Jr., and great-granddaughter of Adeo.
Whoa. I don't have much family history. So I always love hearing when you say great granddaughter and just the lines. I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, actually. I like hearing about others as well, other people's family histories. Now, with our family, I can only go back to my great grandfather. Okay. And then there are no more records. It's just silent. But our band has been carbon dated to being in our territory for over 14,000 years. So I take great comfort in knowing that those are not just my ancestors, they're my family. And we go back that far in that area. I just love.
That's excellent. Oh, yeah, that's excellent. I'm thinking community connections when you say that. Yeah. So let's talk about your second book. Okay. The last time you were on the podcast, it was June 12th, when we talked about your first children's book in the series, Little Wolf. You explained about the Celtic Nation, and you've explained about a little bit more now. Thank you. Now, Little Wolf, for those, I really encourage people, check out that June 12th podcast. Now, Little Wolf is the first in the series. So for those who haven't heard that first podcast, can you give the listeners just an idea of what Little Wolf is about and how White Raven, which is hardcover, right?
Yes, yeah. They're both hardcover, although just recently, Little Wolf has also been published as a paperback.
Oh, good. Okay,
so Little Wolf, right here. And it is the first book in a trilogy. Right. The trilogy follows 3 generations of my family, starting with my mom, myself, and then my daughters. And in Little Wolf, she and her family moved to big city from the country. She really misses the forest and the animals and has a hard time landing in the city. But eventually it all starts to turn around for her in a good way. Her mother makes sure they are connected, her and her sister are connected to their culture. So that's very positive. And then she learns to see nature in the city, in the parks, along the seawall in Vancouver. So this really helps her a lot, actually, and she has great experience with an otter. So yeah, that one's about a young girl meeting challenges along the way and adapting and coming out doing really well. And then with White Raven, we have White Raven is the mother of Little Wolf. Yeah. And so we start to learn about her and her experiences.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So I listened the other day to our first podcast, and I have to ask, did you have First Nations dreams when you were writing White Raven?
Yes, definitely. There's a part, the dream in its full entire sequence happens in book 3. But then there's a segment of that is also in White Raven. And so the whole series actually started with the dream. It was a confirmation of work I was doing at the time with my mom. We went into my youngest daughter's school and talked about residential schools. We were invited to join a couple of elders from the Sechelt Nation on the Sunshine Coast. And so the dream started coming right after that. It was confirmation that we were doing the work we needed to do. Yeah. So that was really exciting. Good. So the series really started with the dream.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what White Raven is about?
Definitely. So with White Raven, we learn about her residential school experiences. She went to St. Michael's Indian Residential School in Alert Bay. And I leave the word Indian in that title for historical reference. I believe it was in the early 70s, maybe the late 60s, the term Indian was taken out and it just became St. Michael's Residential School. But when my mom went there in 1945, the term was attached. And so I think it also not only gives it historical reference, but even a little bit about the mission of the school by having that there, which is now not a favorable term. So for historical reference, and it needs to be there. So she started there in 1945, and she was one of 150,000 children across Canada who went to these schools, and they were forced to go to the schools. Yeah. So we learned about her experiences there. It's very age appropriate. As many people know, a lot of the stories are not really children friendly. Yeah. So, and then of course, it depends on the family you grew up in too. I grew up knowing a lot of these stories, my mom's stories, her aunts, her cousins, that sort of thing. So since a very young child, I was aware of that. So in White Raven, we discover what happens to her in the school, how she kind of finds her way through that, and then also throughout her life suffers from PTSD as a result of going to the school. And then it's a story of healing. Okay. She, as an elder, attends residential school workshop, healing workshops, and it's really good for her soul, really good for her spirit. And that reflects in her relations with her family and her friends. And she inspired her family and friends to also want to do those workshops and courses. So we see that. So it's a story of healing and family unity. Wow. Really important to my mom. It's super important to me. So, it's a journey.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So at what age were you aware of residential schools and that your mom went to one?
Since as far back as I can remember, actually, I was born in Port Alberni. Yeah. And there was a school there that was operating at the time. So I was aware of that school because some of our cousins would come and visit on the weekends to just have a little break from the school when they were allowed out. Yeah. And then, so firsthand, I saw cousins and family, that were from the school. And then also just hearing about my mom's experiences since as far back as I can remember. It's always been a part of the fabric of our family. Yeah. It was a very painful time for my mom, and it haunted her, that experience, her whole life. Yeah. So, as a result, I heard those stories since I was very young. Yeah. Yeah. And just what you had said about your cousins coming to visit when they were allowed. I mean, yeah. If I had lived on Vanlands, there was a very good chance that I would have been sent to residential school as well. But my mom, after her residential school experiences, shortly after, 2 years later, left her village and worked in Namu in the fish processing area there. And that's where she met my dad. Okay. So they left there for work and they came to Vancouver Island. So I was born here.
Okay. Okay.
Beautiful island.
It is. It is definitely. Yeah. So we've been moving. Okay. And I've been trying to get my hands on a copy of White Raven. Okay. And I'm like, okay, because I'm north now, because we're still working on it. We're working on our house getting built. So I'm not anywhere near Victoria. Okay.
Oh, I see that.
So there I am. I thought, okay, I want to get my hands on a copy, especially like it's hardcover too. That's pretty special. So I thought, okay, fine. I wanted to get it from Monroe's. I wanted to get it from an independent bookstore. So then I went on Amazon and then I looked and I thought, it's not available yet, Joe. Right. So I marked it down on my calendar and I will get a copy for sure.
Oh, good. I'm glad you figured it out, because I was going to say, don't feel bad. It's actually not even officially released until the 14th. So, 2 days from now,
okay,
will be released.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, at what point local stores will have the book. Places like Monroe, they're really good at letting customers know when books come in. So I would imagine they'll add that to their list of, hey, it's here. Strong Nations up in Nanaimo is also a great one to order online from.
Okay.
They feature only Indigenous titles in books. So not very many people know about that. I think the teachers are familiar with it, but I love to let other people know about it because they're doing great work out there. And of course, all our local bookstores are doing a great job too.
So you said Strong Nations?
Strong Nations, yeah.
Because I'm even north of Nanaimo. So that's what I'll do. I'll order through there. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in Nanaimo and they're really quick. When they have the books on hand, they get them out really quickly. So
okay. Good. Good. Well, will you read a little of White Raven to us?
Sure. So this is a little ways into the book. Oh, I don't have my glasses on. So that's okay. Here is the graphic for it, which is very beautifully and artistically done by Natasha Davies. So even though it was called a school, St. Michael's was not a place where children received an education. They spent more time doing chores and being punished than learning. When White Raven finally left at age 16, she proudly taught herself how to tell time. She was never taught this basic skill in all her years at St. Michael's. Can you imagine? For most of her adult life, even as an elder, White Raven had nightmares about her time at the school. She learned that she had something called post-traumatic stress disorder, which is common when people have had a lot of pain, shock, or sadness in their lives. White Raven realized that residential schools were not places of safety and learning. Instead, they were jails for Indigenous children.
Yeah.
And my mom always felt that. Always.
Well, just when you said she taught herself how to tell time, like not even, yeah. Okay.
And that was when we told time from a clock with hands.
Yeah.
Now, everything is digital, so it's a lot quicker and easier to learn.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I remember when I listened to Teoni's Dream, and it's beautiful. I remember the waves. And I love waves. Like when we're where we're at now, and I take the dog out, I hear waves, and there's just something about that. And I also remembered how saddened and angry I was. And I'm trying to keep it together here. When I heard about the residential schools, okay, and the numbers. So I'm wondering, how did you tackle writing about these circumstances in a medium of a children's book? And I know for myself, I couldn't do it because I would just be so like, how do you, I'm going to say it, how do you not get angry? Because I get angry just hearing the piece you just read.
Yeah, there's a lot there. First off, I feel that we have anger when we're shocked uh, about something that's happened, or we've experienced something that makes us angry. And I know for my mom, she was angry.
Yeah.
She was hurt. She'd been traumatized by the experience. And it took her many years to work through that and to work through that anger. Uh, and that's when the healing really helped her a lot. And it gave her more peace, which was really helpful for her. It's helpful for anyone who's been through so much trauma. And to realize that none of it was your fault
Yeah.
was really important. Because we were talking about children. She started there when she was 6. So she carried that with her for so many years in this treatment. Uh, so just back to how do you write that? Um, I just had to share in this particular segment of the trilogy. It was really important to me, and it always was, that people hear my mom's story.
Yeah.
And so it was just a matter of getting it out there, and what moved me to write, what did I want to share.
Yeah.
Because I've known her story since I was little.
Yeah.
And so it was important to me also because people didn't believe my mom's stories. They didn't believe a lot of residential school survivor stories. How could that happen in Canada? And just so many different beliefs and reasoning behind why
Yeah.
it wasn't believed. So that must have been really hard for her whole life to carry the trauma and then to not be believed.
Yeah.
Is a double whammy.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really great when my mom and the Seashells Elders did our first presentation together. And, it was to children in a school. And so she was able to tell part of her story and be believed.
Yeah.
So I just want to continue to do that, in her honor and honor of her cousins, her family that was also there with her at the time.
Yeah.
So for me, that's really what motivated me.
Okay.
And with children, you don't tell the big whole story unless you're there with them to help them absorb all that information.
Yeah.
My kids grew up with a lot of information. They knew about our First Nations history. They knew about First Nations history across North America. And I was honest with them, but I also was there to help them absorb that information and process it. They also know about injustices against other cultures. That was also important. Human rights is a huge thing. So, and this is part of that, is sharing my mom's story and getting it out there to as many people as possible. So, I see children reading this with their families, with their caregivers, their educators, in a supportive environment. And so that's really, where it all started. It wasn't hard to write.
Okay.
Probably because I'd known about it all my life.
Okay.
If I was just tackling this and I knew nothing about it, I think that would have been harder.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And I when you mentioned about your children and you also wanted them to learn other cultures and injustices, I remember from Little Wolf, the illustration where she has it's the world, but she's learning about she wanted to learn about other cultures too. Yeah.
And actually, as I say, the series is based on 3 generations of my family. And that was me as a kid. I was so eager to learn about other cultures, my own and other cultures, around the world. And so I shared that with my daughters as well. And now I get to start to share that with my grandkids too, which I love.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but it's with respect to your books. I remember when I was looking for it and looking up the summary, and it mentions that Little Wolf has grown up. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? Like in my head, I was thinking, I wanted I thought, can we have more stories of when she's little? But I understood that's not how it fits in the series. But I guess I just, how do I say this? I wanted more. I was wanting more stories with her as a little girl, and it's not to take away from White Raven, right?
Right.
But I know I can't, I'm going to admit it. I was pulled in, right? I was pulled in with Little Wolf's story. So this, like I said, I am excited. I'm excited to get White Raven. So, okay. So you mentioned that you talked with your daughters, your children, a lot about what had happened. So I'm wondering how much of your conversations they played a big part in the plotting of White Raven? Did you use a lot of those conversations as you're doing the writing, how you explained it to your daughters?
Yes and no. Yes, in the big picture.
Yeah.
The importance of it and that it happened. But I didn't get into the details of the conversation. It's mentioned, definitely. It's a big part of the family story for sure. And yeah, so there's your answer to that one.
Okay. So when you started writing Little Wolf, it sounds like you had First Nation dreams. When you started writing it, did you know ahead of time it would be, now it's a 3-book series that it's going to be? Yeah. Did you know that it?
No, I didn't know it at the time. I needed to write.
Okay. Yeah.
So I wrote, and it started with the dream in the 3rd book.
Yeah.
Which was very timely with respect to what we were doing in our lives around sharing information about residential schools. And just, my mom's still on her healing journey. And so at the time, I didn't see it as 3 books. I felt it was just the one story. But then as I started to really look at it, I realized there was 3 stories there.
Yeah.
And actually, I can appreciate what you're saying about how you wish there was more Little Wolf. There could have been, for sure.
Okay.
And there still could be.
Good.
Who knows? I mean, people have asked me, would I write more? Like, is there more coming after the 3? And they're hoping there is.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a real journey. Little Wolf came out in May.
Yeah.
And, as you know, it takes a while between when you meet with the publisher and when your book is out.
Yeah.
So that was 2 years for Little Wolf to come together and to be out on the shelves. And then very quickly, now we have 4 months later, we have White Raven coming out, which is a real blessing to have 2 books out in 1 year, but it also means extra busy time.
Yeah.
I could still be working on Little Wolf, and I will be, and now I'm working on White Raven. And in fact, the illustrations are being done right now for book 3, Abalone Woman, which is out next May. So we're in the midst of, bringing the story to life through illustrations.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And
it's a big process. It's exciting though. It's really great. I love it.
And I'm glad it didn't sound odd, me saying I wanted little, like I say that I wanted, I really enjoyed Little Wolf's story, just maybe because what I found is I was an awkward child, and I'm not at all trying to make any comparison, but your stories reach such a big audience. Okay. That, and I think I said this in our first podcast, me as an adult enjoyed it so much because I remember being a child. Okay. So, okay. Well, I'm, like I said, I'm very curious. I'm very, get my hands on.
I want to say one thing about that, and that is that I've heard from adults who have read the book, and even adults can identify with segments of the book. Yeah. You identify with it in your way. I know a couple who live in Calgary, and the woman had been living in the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by nature. She moved to Calgary for love, but really missed that connection, that every day, look out your window and there's beauty and nature everywhere. So her partner ordered Little Wolf, and gave it to her for a birthday present.
Yeah.
And actually couldn't wait until her birthday and gave it to her early because there was so much excitement around her reading the book. So she read the book, and Little Wolf sits on her desk in her office. And it was really helpful for her.
Yeah.
So that makes me so happy that there's different segments of the story that reach out to people. Someone else really appreciated the adoption of a rescue dog. So, there's something there for everyone. And then for First Nations urban children, just learning to discover that you can do well in another setting.
Yeah.
And there are ways to connect to your culture and ways to connect with nature. So I think there's a little something for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay. Now, what is, I guess, the ultimate message or understanding you want children and adults to take away from White Raven?
I think first of all, it's really good to look at the big picture. And the big picture is that over 150,000 children went through the residential school system in Canada. All those children and all their families have their own story. And right now, with the recovery of the bodies that began in Kamloops, there's been greater interest in those stories. So for residential school survivors and their families, they've always wanted those stories to come out. And so now that more people are aware of the situation, it's really great to take the time. And this is part of reconcili-action, where you listen to the stories of the people around you who have gone. Or if you don't know anyone, there's stories through film, there's stories through books. Make an attempt to reach out and be part of the change that needs to happen. So, for me, on a personal level, it was always, I just wanted to get my mom's stories out. Because since I was a kid, I grew up with them, and I believed those stories.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was important that my mom knew that people around her believed her stories.
Yes.
And the hardships that she went through, and then the victories that she experienced because she was able to be on a healing journey, which she initiated.
Yeah.
So that was, a big thing for her. It was a great thing for our family as well. And yeah, so it all comes down to sharing her stories, really, is what motivated me. And now, in the bigger picture, what's happening around the recovery of the bodies, I think they can work together.
Yeah.
And I think we can be part of that change. It starts as individuals, in our families, in our communities, and with government. And we all need to be part of that at some level. So
yeah,
it's a big picture, but it can start very small. It can start in our family.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and it's so exciting to see the exposure and the acknowledgments you're getting. So can you tell me about some of the exposure the books have received? And you're appearing on book lists. Like, how's it been? Tell me about all that feedback and excitement.
Well, it was surprising and such an honor. That started with Little Wolf, and it started with CBC adding Little Wolf to a couple of lists and recommended reading lists of children's picture books and Indigenous stories. Other book lists have picked that up, and now with White Raven, again, White Raven appears just recently on a CBC picture book recommended list. I think there were 61 books in that list, and was so honored that White Raven is part of that.
Excellent.
So it's been really exciting. I hadn't anticipated any of that. As I say, I just want to get the stories out there. I want to share them. Have as many children and their families, their caregivers, their educators, read the book.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Teoni, is there anything I've missed or you would like to address or you would like to add? And So anything you'd like to add, or?
You know what? I think I wouldn't mind reading the dedication.
Yes.
That's all right. It's just here in the beginning of the book, but I think it's important to me. So
yeah.
This book is a small glimpse of my mom, Lena White's life at St. Michael's Indian Residential School in Alert Bay, BC. Her spirit suffered, but she was stronger than she realized. Mom healed and took back her spirit through workshops for residential school survivors. And in honor of my mom, her sister, her cousins, and her friend and schoolmate, Chief and Dr. Robert Joseph of Reconciliation Canada, I remain committed to making sure that your lives matter. You all deserve to be cherished as children. I have always believed your stories. And I love you all to the new sea, moon, and back.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
And
Thank you.
It's just a tiny little thing, and if I don't tell you, you could quite easily miss it. But at the end of that dedication, there's a little purple heart. And at the end of the dedication in Little Wolf, there's a red heart. But I really felt like with this one, without even knowing the meaning and the significance around the purple heart, that these children still deserve to be honored and recognized for what they went through. And have since learned that the purple heart signifies, from a military perspective, American military too. So I guess I've watched a few American military shows. Just the significance of someone being injured during a time of war. And I feel like these children, they were injured emotionally, sometimes physically, and sometimes they just didn't make it home. So I feel, they deserve a purple heart too.
Yeah.
So that little purple heart is there for them, for all of them.
Yeah.
And I was quite happy to have the dedication set up the way it was. And, it's very powerful for me to have that dedication in the book.
Yeah. Awesome. So do you mind mentioning again locally where people can pick up Little Wolf?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Downtown, we have Monroe Books. They have a Little Wolf there as well. Bolin Books, another great bookstore. We're blessed with great bookstores here, by the way.
I miss them.
Indigo up at Mayfair, Soup Museum. There's so many places that you can pick it up. The Royal BC Museum has it, or will have it, pardon me. Everyone's just waiting on their copies to arrive because, of course, Tuesday is the official day.
Yeah.
And online through Strong Nations, Indigo, Amazon will also eventually have it too. So it's available. It's out there. Cold Books also have it.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Teoni, thank you. Thank you for coming back. And the third book, we've got to finish this with the third book.
Okay. Let's
okay.
That'll be out in May. I look forward to talking with you again.
Okay. I'm writing that down. May. We can't go this far and not finish this. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Teoni.